We continue our study of Tetzaveh, the second half of Shmot, of course, which deals with all of the ideas related to the Mishkan and the Kohanim. Yesterday, we discussed really the Kohanim. The last week's parsha yesterday, we discussed the Kohanim, and today sorry. Last week's parsha was really about the Mishkan, the different kalim, the vessels, and this week's parsha is more about the Kohanim and specifically their clothing. I want to today about the breastplate with its stones upon it. It's of course in Parshat Tetzaveh, and what we just some different ideas regarding the stones and the breastplate and the that important part, colorful part of the Kohen Gadol's wardrobe. Let me just say there are different bigadim. The Kohen Gadol would wear 8 garments, very, very colorful. Did also have big day lavan. He also did have white garments, and the regular Kohanim, their color clothing was much big day lavan was not as colorful as the beautiful clothing of the Kohen Gadol with its royal and regal colors, blues and purples and reds. But on the Choshen, the breastplate, we have colors, different colors sewn. And what we understand is that they reflect different ideas of the tribes of Israel. So Odem, the red stone, is often linked to Reuven. It's red, so it's passion and it's impulsive. Think about Reuven. He is somebody who the character himself, go back to not the tribe, but he himself, he is somebody who's impulsive. He makes terrible, impulsive mistakes with the sleeping of Yaakov's Pilegesh, with what he says when I will have my 2 sons killed if you send down Binyamin with me. He's red, so it's passion, but it could also be impulsiveness, but it's supposed to represent his tribe. Bareket, which is emerald. It's like a greenish color, and it's, according to some, supposed to represent the idea of spiritual vitality and the priestly service that's linked with the tribe of Levi. Yahalom is linked to the tribe of Zvulun. It's hard, it's enduring. It has to do with the idea of Zvulun being sailors and on their ships and trading. It's about commercial strength and stability based upon this idea of Yisachar and Zvulun being together, Yisachar being the ones who study the Torah, and Zvulun being the ones who have a deal, as it were, with them and go and work. So they're hard, they endure, right? Being on a ship. I'm not talking about going on a cruise. We're not we're not talking about the Weissmans hopefully enjoying their cruise. We're talking about the people on a hard work ship. Next is Leshem Shoham, which is linked to Yosef. It sort of has sort of multi-tonal complexity, leadership under pressure. So there are those who say that look at the different stones and maybe they have different ideas related to the different stones. It's hard to do for all of them to figure out all 12 how they they work for each tribe, but just some basic ideas about it. Different ideas just about the stones. So one thing to think about is maybe it's about the question of stability versus fragility, or justice and sort of permanence. Gemstones symbolize permanence, strength, value, how they're cut very precisely. And the breastplate is called the Choshen Mishpat. It's the breastplate of judgment. The stones symbolize that justice has to be firm. Values have to be like the stones. They have to endure. It can't be something that, right, this is my value today, this is my value tomorrow. They have to be things that last forever. The names are engraved in the stones are not erasable. They're engraved in. They are there forever. So they symbolize, in a sense, this mishpat, this firmness, this idea that they endure. They're engraved. You can't just erase them, and they last. And they're also set very properly. The structure matters. It goes back to sort of like when we were talking Parshat Yitro about what Yitro brings in. Yitro doesn't bring the values. Values are, let's say, from the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 utterances. But Yitro gives the structure. You need the two together. We talked about with the Mishkan, right? God on Har Sinai is dynamic, is unstable, is can be destructive. So after Har Sinai, where is a momentary thing that we border off, and you can't walk up to Har Sinai during the revelation. But now in the Mishkan, it's going to be, there's set rules, there's a structure. So here too, if we think about this as being representative of the values of judgment, the way we communicate with God, but they're carefully set. Structure matters. Power without setting structures can be dynamic. God's power. So that's another way that it sort of is looked at. If you look in sort of a more, just generally, without the details, Kabbalistic and mystical writers talk about how stones refract light and they reflect light differently. And so talk about the different stones having different unique divine lights. The Urim V'Tumim, the illumination emerges through these differences, which is, coming back to one of the general important ideas about the Mishkan. Everybody is giving what they can give. Some gave the gold, some gave the silver, some gave scarlet, some gave, dyes and this and that. Everybody gave what they can. And so the Urim V'Tumim represents different ideas. Unity is not identical light. It's sort of this harmonized reflection, harmonized refraction of the light. Every Jew refracts divine light differently, and hopefully is doing so, and is refracting the divine light of God. So there are different ways that we've tried to, sort of understand what the Choshen mishpat, what the breastplate is supposed to be doing. Just some other ideas. Who, of course, wears the Choshen is the Kohen Gadol, originally Aaron, and then his descendants, and they're carrying the 12 stones, as we just mentioned, each of them engraved with the name of a tribe, and it's worn on by Aaron's heart. It's worn on his chest, worn by Aaron's heart. And it's interesting because the Kohen, and this in a sense is similar to a Navi. A Kohen, the Gemara discusses, are they shluchei Rachmana, shluchei Didan? The Kohanim, are they the messengers of God to the Jewish people, or the messengers of the Jewish people to God? It appears to me that they're more the messengers of the people to God. Right? The Navi is more the representative of God. The Navi is the person who's speaking God's words. The Kohen Gadol is more representing the people to God. He brings the sacrifices to God. He's not the one that God really communicates with. God communicates with his Navi. That's the precarious position of the prophet. A different discussion for a different time. Heschel writes about this at length in his book, The Prophets, how difficult it was for the Navi. For example, Moshe Rabbeinu, the people are, God is upset, and God is saying to Moshe, we have to do something to the people. They're not good. And Moshe is supposed to prosecute the people. And at the same time, Moshe is supposed to defend the people in front of God. Moshe does that. Not every prophet does that well. That's the precarious position the prophet finds himself in. The Kohen Gadol is much more a representative of the people. He's much more shluchei didan. He's bringing, and the Gemara discusses both roles, but he's bringing the sacrifices to God, each tribe. So these breastplate, right? Each tribe, different personalities, different strengths, but equal space in the heart. It's engraved, like we said, it lasts there, so it's permanent, it's dignified. No tribe is erased, even if they're troublesome, even if they make a mistake. We go into the book of Shoftim, where almost the entire tribe of Binyamin is destroyed, and the Jewish people say, we're not going to marry into the tribe of Binyamin. But eventually they are restored, and the ultimate sign of that restoration is the first king is from the tribe of Binyamin, King Shaul. Everybody is there, right? It's, I guess, like your children. Sometimes, maybe your children, a child does something, you're not too happy with that child, you don't erase that child. You have to do something really bad, I assume, to be erased. They're still there. Leadership of the Kohen Gadol, representative, means carrying everyone. You have to carry all of your people. Sometimes it's not so easy. It's not the ideal, one can say, but that is the reality of the Kohen Gadol. He has to carry all of the tribes of Israel to God. And interesting to think about, it's not the only place where we have the sort of the names. We have the two stones that were on the shoulders of the Kohen Gadol, with the names of the tribes of Israel, but that he's sort of carrying them on his shoulders, on the two shoulders. But the heart is more beautiful, where they're the heart, the idea of what a heart represents, and the lifeblood, right? This is what's pumping life, is all of us in this idea together. And so this is the Choshen. Now, in the Choshen, we have the Urim Vitumim, and the Urim Vitumim, the letters would light up, according to tradition, on the different engraved names, to sort of give codes to the Kohen Gadol to understand things. We have that later on in the books of the Nevi'im. One of the ways that during the lifetime of Shaul, Shmuel, during their lifetimes, one way of the attempts to communicate with God and get messages of God was through um, the Urim Vitumim. And something that's intriguing about it, well, again, for the most part, again, the Kohen Gadol is a representative to the Jewish people. He would get messages. More of the messages would come straight to the prophet. Here, the Kohen has to understand, this one lights up, that one lights up. What is it saying? What's the message? But the God's answers emerge from the Choshen, which is the collective names of Bnei Yisrael. It is Klal Yisrael. It is all of Israel, the future, as it were. We could say the future of the nation. What the decision the nation has to done is spelled out through its people. It's coming, right. It's not just God speaking, but if God wants to say it, it's coming through the one piece of the big day kahuna, more than any of the others, that is about Bnei Yisrael, that has their names, that have their different stones, that reflect different ideas and reflect the uniformity, but at the same time the distinction and the differences, the dignity of difference of all of the different people. And this is sort of an idea of about leadership. One could say it can't bypass the people; it has to shine through them. It's a very different type of idea than what we talked about prophecy before, right? And this is, again, the Kohen would get some of these messages, but much more the prophet was done very differently. And prophecy is something that happens in isolation. If we think about Moshe Rabbeinu, we talk Moshe Rabbeinu was panim el panim with God. Moshe Rabbeinu spoke directly to God like two people speak to each other. All different questions there about whether it's like two friends or is it like two lovers? What's the relationship? And different ways of understanding for a different day. But all the other prophets, when they would get prophecy, they would go into a deep sleep. They would be overcome. Talks about Shaul later when he becomes a prophet, sort of rips off his clothing. He doesn't understand what's going on. He's overtaken by God's presence. Prophecy, nivu'ah, whatever that means. God communicates. We know God talks, how God communicates with Nevi'im. We don't understand what it means. It's an experience that takes over the entirety of your body, but it's something that's done in isolation. Yes, there are the exceptions, the revelation of Sinai, the midrashic ideas of the revelation at the time of Kriyat Yam Suf, but generally, Yeshaya, God spoke to Yeshaya, God spoke to Yirmiyahu, God spoke to, and again, spoke, I don't know what it means by spoke. Here, the messages are communicated in a way that's through everybody. The Kohen is a representative of the Jewish people. God's going to speak to the Jewish people, going to tell them things, and it's coming through the collective idea of the Jewish people. It's a different way and an interesting way to think about when we sort of we balance the different ways that God speaks to the Jewish people. And it makes sense here again through the idea, if we call the Choshen, as the Choshen Mishpat, has this idea of judgment. It has to be balanced. When we make a decision, you have to make a decision that's a balanced decision. We have to think about the rich and the poor, the young and the old, the men and the women. A judge, say a public official, has to see the full picture, has to see all the tribes, can't just see some of the perspectives. You have to try to take in. Now, we're not AI systems, so we can't take in every single perspective that ever was, but we understand the point. There shouldn't be favoritism. There shouldn't be bias towards this shevet or that shevet. We understand that there is complexity involved in all of Am Yisrael, what should happen, and that is a big piece of what is being told to us regarding the Urim Vitumim and regarding the Choshen Mishpat, the complexity, but the attempted uniformity and unity, and making decisions that are helpful for all of B'nai Yisrael, all of the stones together, all of the different light that comes out from it. Okay, we will